We are live.
Thank you, Devin.
Welcome.
We'll call to order the January 25th, 2021 meeting of the Tecumseh Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Greg Lewis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. First thing on the agenda, or on the pre-agenda, is good news. Community Learning Connections is here. Let me get them into the meeting. There she is.
You're muted.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn. Good evening.
Oh, sorry about that. I just got let in there. My apologies. Hi, Heather Perez here from Community Learning Connections. How is everyone?
Good.
Fine.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll get going here. I want to start by thanking TPS. Community Learning Connections has been in partnership with TPS for over 26 years now. And you currently provide us in-kind support, free office space, technology, and you help leverage at-risk funds through the state for us. So all of this great stuff that I'm going to talk about, we couldn't do without your support. So thank you very much. I'm actually at the high school in my new office here and really like it. So thank you. Just to kind of remind people, we work with TPS administration staff, teachers, and parents, as well as students. And we use data and we identify areas of need within our district. And then we leverage community support around those needs. We have focus areas, including the provision of basic needs, student and family supports, mentoring, improving the school climate, and post-secondary success. We have staff in all 6 buildings working to provide evidence-based programs, and we case manage over 400 students throughout the district. So the provision of basic needs is really like the bread and butter of what we do. We are handing out over 90 Friday food packs a week right now, and we anticipate that going up next semester as more kids get in the building. We also have 100 dairy boxes that we've delivered since the beginning of this school year. And those are donated through Gloria Day, and they have 2 kinds of meat, milk, cheese, all kinds of things. So those are going to our most at-risk families. We delivered 17 full turkey dinners for Thanksgiving, and that's through our partnership with Suburban Chevrolet of Clinton, the Veggie Mobile, and Aramark even provided pies this year for us. We helped 12 families get adopted for Christmas. We had 4 students participate in the Shop with a Hero. And then we also handed out 80 bags of food through Bush's over Christmas break. There were 28 $40 gift cards from Meijer that the Compass staff raised $1,000 with their Gene Week so we could purchase those for families. And then we also handed out $2,000 worth of Bush's gift cards. Thank you to Bush's and I-92 Ministries for helping with that. So our families were well taken care of over the holidays. We have had, it's been overwhelming with the requests this year for clothing, shoes, and boots. And I'd like to thank our community. Whenever we put something out on Facebook, everybody kind of rallies and gets us what we need. And we do have some funding to be able to purchase new items if necessary. And I wasn't even aware of this, but new students in the districts always get a goodie bag from us too. So that's something that Mrs. Hook started for kids that come into the district. We're currently doing weekly check-ins across the entire district. There's a growing number of families that have critical needs, including concerns about losing their power. So we're able to kind of leverage those community resources that we have and connect parents to what they need. Our grad coach has been very busy at the high school. She just completed all of the senior meetings, and those consisted of credit checks and discussions about future plans and also connections to how to fill out FAFSA and scholarship opportunities. She's helping with weekly check-ins with students needing extra support. And she also meets with our counseling department daily to lend additional support wherever needed. We're helping grow. There's a new tutoring program that just started a couple weeks ago, and we're helping grow that program. Students are tutoring other students. It happens on Wednesday. We know next semester there's going to be a lot more joining. We're helping, we're finally getting the UMatter picks now that we're getting more students in the building. So we hope to get our freshmen in here and we can get those UMatter picks up in the hall for everyone. And we're also helping with career development with the new Zello. There's been quite a bit that we're doing. We have our Voices for Change students that are just going to start previewing the program and providing feedback so we can help the counseling staff kind of roll that out. It's a K-12 program. It's actually, it takes over the career cruising that we used to have. We also are very concerned about service here at CLC, and we have still found ways to keep kids engaged, even though we can't do as much in person. We help facilitate Builders Club, which is 5th through 8th grade, and the Key Club at Tecumseh High School. So we did over 40 yards with Make a Difference this year. I really worked with the Department on Aging to get our most at-risk families. We participated in the Salvation Army bell ringing over the holidays. We helped with the Kiwanis Flag program and also making Valentine cards for Cambrian and shut-ins and our elderly in the community. Our Make a Difference Club at Compass has been really busy too. They did cards for veterans. They also did 500 cards over the Christmas holiday for shut-ins. They have pen pals at Cambrian that they're keeping in touch with. And they also did some origami art to display at the library and donated 45 books to the library. We also are helping with the learning gardens and hope to get the greenhouse behind Compass Learning Center up and running. We were able to purchase new greenhouse panels, and it's our goal, hopefully, this spring or certainly by summer, to be working on that. Our Family Nights Getting Ahead program is still up and running. That is our financial stability for families living in generational poverty. We had to finish up our group virtually in the fall, but we just graduated our last group and just received funding from United Way of Lenawee and Monroe to be able to offer another class here in the spring. That will occur virtually, but we are still bringing foods to families and activities so their kids can stay busy at home while the parents attend the class. And at Compass, we just finished up last year's Rocks group. We had to postpone it in the spring and just finish that up here in the fall. And we have funding from Zonta of Lenawee to be able to do another 2 groups starting here. Actually, they just started this week. And we're doing smaller groups so we can still do it in person. So we have 6 to 8 girls in a cohort going through the group together. Our Sources for Strength Suicide Prevention, which is funded through Lenawee Cares, has been doing quite a bit too. They, I don't know if any of you saw the chalkboard downtown, but they did the random acts of kindness where they hung garland and had different things that people could go up and just pick an activity and go do something nice for others in the community. We are just starting our Words Have Power project, and that's really about responsible use of social media. And we were able to use some of the grant funding and paid for a guest presenter, Allison Edwards. I think that was back in December, early December. And she spoke to community members about how to help your child with anxiety. There were over 130 parents and teachers that signed up to attend that. The other thing we have been doing really actively this year is we have formed a social media committee, and it's kind of a cross sector of community members and school employees and students. And we're really focused on promoting responsible social media use. In March, we're going to be running a social media campaign, and each week kind of focusing on something different, kind of the why, sharing some statistics on the rise of anxiety and depression. Little things that we can do. Everybody's going to be challenged to do a tech-free zones and things. Week 3, we'll be promoting kindness. And week 4 is help your kids, run out of resources for parents and things. There's a lot of great tools out there that are really helpful. Even just guidelines on when should you let your child start social media, get on those kind of different platforms. We're helping the SEL director for the district, Lisa Shirk. We're currently reaching out to community members to help record various social emotional learning lessons for our Suite 360 curriculum. and just finishing up a staff wellness grant at the STEAM Center. And we've been able to offer weekly jazzercise and yoga classes and a lot of tips on motivation, stress relief, you know, how to cope, those kind of things. And last week, a week ago today, we handed out our inaugural MLK scholarship. That was in partnership with a lot of businesses throughout the community, and $2,000 was awarded to Noah Manuzak, who was a 2020 THH graduate. And he's recognized for his commitment for promoting diversity and inclusion in our schools and community. And this committee is working on continuing to really promote a caring, diverse, inclusive, and loving community. And I want to thank Amanda Schmidt, who is a teacher who nominated Noah. That was really nice of her to take the time to do that. So I'm wrapping it up here. I don't want to end without thanking my staff: Cindy Hook, Amanda Gibson, Heather Franco, and Tracy Hedrick. I cannot overstate their commitment to TPS students and families. Weekly, they're delivering food and clothing. There's times when we haven't been able to confirm a child's shoe size, and they've gone in and traced the child's foot, taken that over to Tilton and Sons, and gotten shoes for the little kiddos. Pretty much as any need arises in the district, they're there to help, even over the weekends. They're relentless in their efforts to make kids feel worthy and encouraged, and I can't thank them and commend them enough. So my final shameless plug here at the end is for help with funding and talking about our upcoming events. As you may or may not know, Community Learning Connections is funded through fundraising events. We get some grant funding, but we really do rely on the generosity of our giving community. So we have a couple of really cool events coming up. Many of you are probably familiar with our March Mingle. We're shaking that up a little bit this year, and it's going to become the May Mingle. We're moving it to May 15th at the Tecumseh Golf Club. It's going to be outdoors. We're going to have silent and live auctions and food and entertainment. The food's going to be a little different this year. We certainly don't feel right going to our very generous restaurants and asking them to provide food for free when they've been hit so hard by these challenging times. So stay tuned. We've got some different ideas for what we're going to do to feed everyone. And then we have our 8th annual CLC golf outing, which will also be at the Tecumseh Golf Club, and that's on September 24th. So I hope those of you out there that are watching and listening will consider attending one of those events and supporting our organization.
Thank you very much. You're doing an excellent job, even through the year of 2020. You've kept hammering away, and you're doing an excellent job supporting the community and students. Thank you.
Thank you. We had to get creative, and we're dropping off some of our service projects. We're dropping off projects at home for kids, but I commend the community and the staff for really working together to do what we can. Thank you.
That's a pretty impressive list. That's an extremely impressive list. I can't believe you have a staff of 5 of you is off?
Yeah, yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know, it's really the community coming together too. We couldn't do any of what we're doing without the help of our volunteers and our generous community. But we're very blessed to be here working with everyone, and wouldn't want to do anything different.
Well, thanks so much for the report, Heather. I think all the members here know, as many of the people in the organization do, you can't put together a points of pride list for Tecumseh Public Schools and not have every one of those items impacted in some way by CLC and by your staff. So we really appreciate everything that you do for us and how that supports our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Have a great night. All right. Next up is our public comment on agenda items. No one has contacted us about speaking, so we'll move right on to our agenda. For the agenda, I have 2 items that the chair would like to add. So I move to add 2 items to the agenda. First, discussion and action regarding an LSCA resolution. And second, both discussion and action regarding power of attorney for an IRS dispute, longstanding IRS dispute, I guess. Both those items are discussion and agenda. Can I get support for that motion, please? Or discussion and action? I apologize.
Support.
Motion and
Second.
support. All right, we have support. Amending the agenda to add those two items. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Both items are added to the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to give Becky and I think Tony was the first one on the second there. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as revised. First item on the agenda is the Budget Committee report. Ms. Brooks?
So the budget was asked to review some information we had been provided for how COVID funds were spent. The committee did review it and we were satisfied with what was presented to us. And we did put a resolution on the agenda to sum that up.
All right, there was not a full Budget Committee meeting, correct?
Correct. We were asked to look over some information and see anything further. And we felt that we had everything we needed to make that resolution.
All right. Thank you very much. Scheduled reports. Rick, did we have any scheduled reports tonight?
We don't have anything on the list tonight, no. I just wanted to say thanks to the chair and to the members for amending the agenda. Terry does a great job of making sure that we have an up-to-date agenda, but we had a couple of things. One came in late Friday afternoon and one this morning, and tried to provide enough time for members to take a look at those two items. So if you have additional questions, we're certainly going to try to answer those tonight. Thank you.
All right, and that'll bring us right to our discussion items for tonight. First item on the list is a review of the 7000 series policies, which I believe we had a policy committee meeting on this.
We did. We bit way more off than we could chew. We listed that as policy 7, 8, and 9000. Took us about an hour and 10 minutes to get through all of 7 and part of 8000. So we'll get back together and try to get the 8s and 9s to the board for final review. Suzanne, who's the chair of that committee, was not able to attend. Tim and Tony were able to be there. Is there anything that you guys want to bring to the attention of the board? There's only 2 items in the 7000 policies that committee members suggested to change. Neola suggested a $500 limit for items that were donated to come to the board for official acceptance. It was suggested by the committee that be lowered to a $100 donation level. And I agree. I think that it's kind of nice when people make even small donations that they are thanked by the board and that comes before the board. So I certainly would support that change. And then the second one was just to not include an entire policy. Terry, what was the policy number of the item that we're asking to?
7460 on conservation of natural material dealing with recycling.
Recycling, yeah. Now, the policy wasn't exactly in line with some of the things that we like to let. Usually it's student-driven parts of our organization get involved with. So the committee recommended just not including that in our board policy manual. But aside from those two things, Tony or Tim, anything else to add?
I think that covers it for me. So
the question, I mean, I don't know if Greg, if you got your question answered, is it possible for the rest of the board to see all the markups that we saw? Because if you go to the documents online, it doesn't show the red markups like we see in this 4A document.
Yes, Tony. The rest of the board should have had that in their document packet tonight, I believe. Let me double check that. Yep. Yes, indeed. That came with your board packet. There was a PDF that included all the red markouts, the strikeouts, and the changes to it.
For every section, not just the two?
No, just two.
Yeah.
No, just those two had the strikeouts.
If you have access to the board docs and you go to board policy and then draft, so anything that hasn't been approved is considered draft policy. But if you go in through board docs and look at the draft policies, then you can see the edit marks for either deletion or insertion into the policy. And those are the portions of the policy that the committee was reviewed. The process starts, of course, with Neola. They make suggestions. Terry and I review the suggestions. We pass it by any principals or department heads that need to have input. In this case, there was also some input from the school resource officer, Devin, in technology. He and I went through a portion of it. So there are quite a few eyes that cross over those. And then finally, it goes to the committee and to the board for review.
As a reminder for the board members, you do have to log in with your board member ID and login to those board docs to see the draft documents.
Oh, that's why I couldn't see them. All right.
Yep.
I mean, I reviewed them during the policy meeting, but I couldn't go back and see them. You have to log in. That's the problem.
I logged in and
You
I
have-
didn't see them.
You have to go to the draft section and be logged in under your
Okay.
board member ID, and you can see exactly what you saw during the committee or for Tony, what he saw during the committee. And you'll see the draft documents with all of the strikeouts. And what Tony's talking about, Greg, is in that policy, they have choices. So a school district can pick choice A, B, or C, and it tailors the document to their specific situation or district. So
Maybe-
in this
Terry,
case,
maybe Terry can send us those directions again, because I missed the board meeting and I apologize for that. I'm just so busy at work right now, but I tried to get on, and of course the website looks a little different now. So of course, and I'm old, so I'm trying to maneuver my way around. So if Terry could send us all out the directions again, like she did that one time,
I will do that.
Thanks.
thank you, Terry.
So Kevin, then you said it's what Tony saw, but all of us, if we go under drafts, any of us that are on the board can see that same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All
The
right.
same, what's presented to us at the committee meeting is that draft, and you have to go to the draft section. We can go over this. Terry will get out the login information, and we'll get together and make sure that you can find the drafts to this for the future policy revisions. Okay?
Yep.
Any other discussion about the policies or the recommended changes? All right. That's going to move us on to our second discussion item, which is the baseball field dedication and naming. Let's see, did we have documents for that?
One of the items that is in the 7,000 series deals with commemoration and naming of school facilities. So this comes right on the heels of what you will be asked to approve tonight. And there's two parts of that policy. One is commemoration and one is naming rights. Naming rights really has to do with sponsorships. If we decided that we wanted Pepsi to sponsor our softball field, they would be able to make a proposal to do that. But commemoration is really what is being talked about for this particular issue. And you have, I had Terry put that specific policy in front of you in the agenda so that in the packet, so that you could see what it says. It says from time to time, Board of Education may wish to commemorate a school or district facility by means of a plaque or naming a facility after a person or some other honor. The commemoration should be reserved for individuals who've made a significant contribution to the enhancement of education generally, or the district in particular, or the well-being of the district, community, state, or nation. So that's what you'll have to consider tonight. You had the request from the Tecumseh graduates and heard the story of Derek Nahabedian and his contribution to that team. And then you can apply this language to decide if that's something that the board wants to do.
If I may interject, it is on for action next time unless the board prefers to do that tonight. So,
right, both the approving the policy and the naming question are not things that have to be decided tonight if you don't want to.
All right, was there discussion regarding the commemorative naming of the field then?
We've really not done this before, or have we?
One of the things that the board asked me to find out is if there was anybody who could remember a time when it was requested that something be commemorated and that the board turned them down. So I had another meeting last week with members of the Schools Foundation and Ray Schmidt, who I mentioned at our last meeting, somebody who might know, and some other longtime Tecumseh residents. That's really the best research that I could do. And they could not remember a time when anything had been requested to be named and wasn't named for someone, but they also said that those requests have been fairly rare.
Thank you, Rick. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Have we heard it all from other than the night that the people the team came and talked to us? Have we heard from any other members of the community about this?
Not through any channels in the central office, no.
What advantage is it for them or us or both, or either or, to do this? Do they put up a sign? Do they raise donations?
Yeah, they're all planning to fund whatever cost this may be. That they would like to create a plaque that would probably be attached to the back screen at that field so that you could see it from the fan side of the field. And then they want to have a ceremony commemorating their state runner-up finished 40 years ago. And at that time, they would ask to have the field officially named Naha Field after their teammate who passed away recently.
What would that change as far as what we do? Would we change anything to call it Naha Field, or what?
The board would just have to make a resolution identifying that field as Naha Field.
Doesn't cost us any money, or?
It really doesn't. Nope. The board speaks through its minutes, so it would be there for posterity to realize that in 2021, the board saw fit to commemorate that field for one of the team members.
Okay, I would also back any kind of fundraiser they would do to upgrade the facility in any way, shape, or form that fits in with our plan to upgrade facilities. You know,
Mhm.
it raise money during the, you know, the dedication. I don't know. We've
Yeah.
never done this
The
before.
the only fundraising they mentioned was wanting to establish a scholarship fund for
Right.
that individual's children, which the board, you know, can certainly support, but doesn't have to dedicate any funding.
All right. Thank you. And I would like to add that if Pepsi would like to sponsor one of our fields for 7 figures, we are all ears.
Right. Yeah. I'll wear Pepsi blue all over town if they want to do that.
I'll even drink Pepsi.
You would after that. Okay, that brings us to the LSCA resolution, which just hit our inboxes. I believe everyone should have received it in their emails, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I think it was self-explanatory. Rick, do you want to piggyback on that resolution email that we received?
Yeah, you've probably read through it as much as I have. Basically, we're just, as county superintendents coming together to try to regain some local control over many of the decisions. Certainly, COVID-19 decisions are not easy to make. It really does rule just about everything that we do at central office every day. So not to minimize it at all, but the state of Michigan is a large place, and to say that one area is as negatively impacted as others, just it's just a really hard thing to understand. So the superintendents are asking all of the boards in the county to consider this resolution, establishing many of those decisions as a local decision.
Truly just sending the message or voicing our opinion that our local district is significantly different than, say, Detroit or Lansing or Ulmer, Michigan. You know,
Right.
every district is unique, and those blanket directives, if they get a little bit too involved in the day-to-day business, they could have negative impacts right next to those positive impacts they intended.
Right. So I'm suggesting that this is a resolution that the board basically says that, you know, we're asking for more local control on all of the issues that are listed there.
So I guess my question is, why now? We've been in COVID since March. We've been in COVID protocol since March. Why now?
The group of superintendents who brought this to the whole group have been working on this. I don't know how long, but the most recent extension of some of the decision making has finally brought their cause forward, and I'm in support of it. So I don't know exactly why or what sparked it now, but I do know that it's been in the works and that we've talked about it since before the holidays.
Well, and I'd have to
And
imagine, we've never dealt with this before. So there had to be a time frame, I'm sure that was a learning curve of how much do you let the state take over and how much do you retain?
Sure, I get that. But just so, I mean, when we do this resolution, where does it go? We send this to the governor or the health health
Yeah,
department?
I think that it'll just be sent to state government and something for them to consider. The meeting that I was on today included State Senator Zorn and Representative Colley, who are also in support of this resolution. So we do have some carriers that can take this information and put it in front of the people that make decisions.
I noticed there wasn't anything in there about athletics as well. To let these kids go back and play.
No, I think it does mention that, Tim. Doesn't it mention
Did it?
extra?
Okay.
It is
Maybe
actually
I skipped over it.
page 2, second paragraph.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
talks about choir and everything. I mean, theater education.
Right.
Yeah.
All of as we all know, there are many reasons that kids get excited for school, but not the least of which is the activities that you would consider to be life activities. Some of the things that through music and theater and athletics that will be something that kids will enjoy for the rest of their lives. So that's mentioned in there as well.
It's something they need right now. I mean, sitting at home doing nothing. These kids need some kind of outlet right now. So
yeah,
I'll give Tim an amen on that one.
Yeah,
The kids are definitely.
Yeah, I see it with my granddaughter who's a kindergartner. I was there this weekend and she kept telling me that I gotta get out of this house, Papa. Even a 6-year-old is struggling with it right now.
Not to mention
And I think that's
6-year-olds that are trying to teach the 6-year-olds. That's a little tough too.
Yeah.
I think the timing of it, maybe because we're coming up, I think this current order is going to take us through into March. That's the 1-year point for this in March, right? So I think that we're finally to the point that a year of this and the orders every month and such they're wearing thin, and we've got to get our kids back to as close as we can get to normal, get them back into activities and groups, and we can manage it. We've shown that what we've done in the classroom is managed it very well, and by extension, we should be able to manage extracurricular activities or group activities. I think that's really the good motivation for getting this done now.
Hey, better now than later. So.
All right. Any further discussion on the LSCA resolution? All right. Next resolution is a power of attorney. Everyone received that letter from our legal counsel, correct? And it's a standard document. We're assigning power of attorney to the district superintendent to act on behalf of the board in this legal matter with our attorneys. So there's nothing groundbreaking here. Any questions, concerns, or discussion?
you might want to explain it a little bit more to the public so they understand what this really is. So I don't think we're in some kind of major litigation.
Right. Yeah.
Here, so
Kelly, you want to give a summary?
Absolutely. So back in 2013, the state took a look at its health insurance that's get provided to retirees of school systems, and it was underfunded. So the state, in their wisdom, decided they would assign a 3% wage tax on all school employees, which was taxable. The state was then subsequently sued and said, you can't do that. You don't have the authority to do that. And the state came back and said, okay, we don't have the authority to just sign this, but we'll give employees the option to opt in or opt out of this insurance. If the employee decided to opt in, they were assessed this 3% fee on their wages. And at the time, there was some question whether there should be pre-tax or post-tax, or so taxable for the employee, or us ultimately said this was non-taxable. There was some question. They were trying to reach out to the IRS and get a determination, an official determination for that. And then this is the results of this long negotiation process. They're finally going to come together and have a letter on all school districts in the state are asked to participate. We don't have to participate, but in essence, it gives the districts coverage should the IRS come back and say, oh, if we're under an audit or if they just change their mind, we are then covered under this agreement.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Any questions about that?
I'm sorry, Kelly, I think it was my phone cut out. That was regarding the health care benefits. Is that what you
The
said?
healthcare benefits, yes. It's a
Okay.
3%. Yep.
Thank you.
And this was back in 2013 or 2015?
2013, yes. Yeah, that's when it was initially,
2013.
like I said, mandated. And then it came back. Now it's optional. An employee can opt in or opt out. But that 3% now is still assessed if you opt in. And it basically is a determination that that 3% is non-taxable wages.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Tim, good call on that. That was probably a good idea to explain that a little bit more in depth. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? All right. That's going to move us on to our action items. First action item is the millage.
Right, this
Becky,
is
do you have-
the quarter mill renewal for the operation of the pool that is attached to the Compass building. Not a new tax, just a 5-year renewal. And we think we've got a February 9th deadline that we need to have this approval in place ahead of, so that we can get it on the May ballot.
Thank you, Rick. Becky, do you have the motion? And you're muted, Becky, muted.
I do have a motion. This is for a special election for Tuesday, May 4th. Is that the one you were talking about, Rick?
Correct.
Okay, you gave a different date, so I was making sure I have the right one.
February 9th is just the deadline that we have to have it filed with the clerk.
Okay, that makes sense. I hereby move to approve the resolution prepared by Trune Law Firm to call a special election on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 for a millage renewal proposal to provide funds to operate a system of public recreation and playgrounds with dates as established for this purpose. Further administration is directed to comply with all requirements of submitting documentation for this purpose.
Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Suzanne. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Resolution is made unanimously, or I'm sorry. Yes, the resolution is made unanimously. Next action item, continuity of learning plan. Ms. Brooks?
I move to approve the continuation of the district's extended continuity of learning plan for the month of January 2021 as presented, which was originally approved by the Board of Education in September 2020, and further acknowledge the district's pupil count process, which provides for two-way communication with students. The board also directs administration to post and submit said plan as required by MDE.
Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions, discussion? All right.
Just
roll
remind
call
the
vote.
board that we're continuing all 3 phases of our continuity of learning plan. We have face-to-face, distance learning, and virtual academy. The only tweaks that we've made recently in the second semester, we are going to be offering every other Wednesday in 7th and 8th grade as a virtual Wednesday. The staff from both of those grade levels have concerns about the amount of time and contact they have with the distance learning kids, and would like to increase that by having those Wednesdays available for either individual small group or whole group additional support for those individuals. Kids who are face-to-face will still be able to come into the building if that is something that the family needs, and we will supervise and feed and give them a place to work on our Wi-Fi. But That's not really a change in the continuity of learning plan. We're continuing face-to-face and distance, but just making that small schedule change.
Thank you, Rick. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote. Becky,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Continuity of learning plan is unanimously approved. Next action item, resolution for the COVID relief fund. Becky?
I hereby move that the Budget Committee requires no additional financial information regarding the COVID Relief Act funds, which were spent based on district policies and procedures.
Support.
Thank you, Suzanne. Discussion?
Yeah, I have a few questions on this. So, because I've asked for the breakdown on the COVID funds and, and I got the list of items and it was like, looks like $450,000 in Chromebooks, $105,000 in licensing fees, $165,000 in miscellaneous supplies, $190,000 on an air purifier. And so my question is, our policy 6320 says it is the policy of the board that the superintendent adhere to the following. Seek informal price quotes on purchases that are under 50% of the amount allowed by the state statute for a single item, which is like 25,000 and some change this year. So it'd be like 12,600 or something. Except in the case of emergencies or when the materials purchased are of such a nature that price negotiation would not result in a savings to the school. Now I know that a couple of people have said that we've been under an emergency order, but when I think of an emergency, I think of the ceiling's leaking, the roof's going to collapse. We need to hurry up and get something fixed. And I just want to make sure that we're following our procedures, that we did get multiple quotes on these items, and so forth. And
Was the
again,
Budget Committee's understanding?
excuse me, I'm talking.
What?
And I haven't been provided any of that material that I've asked for. So
Are
I
you
think
done
it's
now?
our duty as elected board officials to make sure that we are adhering to our board policies. And this is not where I wanted to have to bring this up at. I tried to do it the right way, but then the budget committee decided that they don't want to share any information. So this is where we're at.
In this case, and in most of those cases, except for the Chromebooks, which we took that on earlier in the summer, most of those items were considered emergency primarily because in the supply process, the longer you waited, the further you went behind in the line. And in order to make sure that we could get our place in line early, we did not follow that process. We went with the emergency language in the board policy that allows the superintendent to make those decisions and then inform the board at the next meeting, which is a timeline that we lived up to.
Well, I know we did have a meeting in the summer. It was an 18-hour special meeting notice, so I can't imagine that we couldn't have had a special meeting to at least look at these things. So, but then we actually found out about it in a board meeting that we bought teachers' computers and the meeting we had in July was for $126,000 for Chromebook tablets and another 13 to 15,000 for, and that was a special meeting. So I can't imagine 18 hours is going to make that big of a difference. So that's all I got to say on it. I just I'm pretty disappointed. So, yep. This is taxpayer money, and I don't feel like we did a very good job with it, especially since I don't even know if we got multiple quotes and so forth for this. So,
Tim, I have a quick question for you. Were you reading the policy directly off of our website? Is that where you were just reading it from?
Yeah, competitive bids. Yep. Purchasing.
Okay. You do know that the policy, the 6,000 series, was changed in October, and this entire purchase was made under the old policy, not the new one. And those were part of the upgrades we made. So some of the language in there changed in a significant way. Not to argue the point that we very well could have and probably should have had more discussion about it. The emergency money was spent in an emergent fashion because we needed to get electronics here because we didn't know if we were going to open up school on time or if we were going to stay in school. That's for sure. However, that the policy you're citing doesn't apply to this money. It's not, well, technically it's taxpayer money. It came from the federal government from COVID, and it was received and I think expenditured, all but the last of it was expenditured under the old policy.
And that was information that was provided to the budget committee when we discussed it, which is why we came to the decision that we did. We were already had a discussion that Rick, in the future, if there were large purchases, would make sure that we knew about it ahead of time. That was already, so there was no point in continuing the conversation. The COVID relief fund spent in a way that we felt was appropriate, and it fell under the old guidelines. And going forward, we have new guidelines.
Yeah, I just pulled up the retired policy and it actually said it must be approved by the board. So it didn't say
There
anything
still
about-
should have been an emergency funding. There was still to meet an emergency in there.
Emergencies such as power failure, severe cold weather, or other such natural disaster. So to keep the schools of the district open or to reopen the schools. So I suggest you read the old policy, but because it definitely broke that one. So.
Well, I don't think we broke it. I think that
I do.
COVID very well qualified in the natural disaster. In this case, a pandemic is certainly a natural disaster. And it was necessary to have electronics here to give the students one-on-one. So they would have that so we could keep school open and they could learn however much they were going to get if they had to be at home on September, 15th or whatever day we were looking at for the first benchmark.
Yeah, there's no doubt we were in an emergency. We were locked down, for God's sakes, for 2 weeks. I mean, I was out on the road in Indiana traveling for sales and was told to go home, and everything was shut down. So we were definitely under.
This was this fall,
and
Suzanne.
Don't interrupt me like you don't interrupt other people. So we were under an emergency, and will we do it differently? Yes, next time. I think we should. We should definitely have a discussion, but I don't think we need to keep splitting hairs on this one over and over.
And I do think with the exclusion of the air purifiers, all the information was communicated to the board. I think that in the future for the next pandemic, we will certainly have some experience behind us and be able to communicate it in a more organized fashion. And I think in a more efficient fashion. And the air purifier situation has already been addressed. And I don't anticipate that happening again. And with the new policy and moving forward with this experience, I don't anticipate any issues with spending pandemic money again. In fact, the next batch of pandemic funds is, I don't remember when it's due, but there's a longer period to spend it. And it's going through committee, a special committee, just to highlight where we need to spend that and within the confines of the grant. Is it a grant officially, Kelly?
Yes, it is officially
Thank you.
a federal grant. Mhm.
Okay.
Kevin, is the committee a Tecumseh committee or a state committee?
Tecumseh.
You referenced.
It is. Yes, the committee will be assembled specifically, or it will go to a committee specifically to address, we have this grant, this pandemic funding. It can be used for this. We have to use it by this. And we'll bring in technology, facilities, and find out where we can best spend that money to support our needs and the students' needs. and then it'll be brought to the board, and the board will approve or veto the expenditures that are brought to it.
So this is the first I've heard. So is the committee already formed? This is the first I've heard of this committee.
Rick, were you planning on a special? Rick and I haven't talked about it yet. We're not quite to that point. Were you thinking of a special committee for this, or were you going to push it to existing?
Yeah, we won't need a special committee. It will come through the budget committee. But I will have a group of administrators and directors who I'm going to be asking for their thoughts and ideas on how this next batch needs to be spent. And then I'll bring representatives from that group to the budget committee to say, here's our priority list. What do you think? And, Tim makes a fair point. We did things this summer and fall in a fashion that we have never done them in response to circumstances that we've never behaved under before. As a result of that, I know better, so now I can do better, and have pledged to the board to do that. We'll make sure that this process with the new COVID relief funding is more thoughtful and follows the process more closely.
And I will say that definitely, if there was anything about handling the pandemic that we screwed up, I'm glad it was the efficiency and the organization and communication in the administration or the financial end of it. Because in school, I think functionally from students, teachers, administrators, that part we didn't screw up. I think even with that steep learning curve, we handled that outstandingly, I think is how we handled it. So if this is the end of it, that we stumbled on and dropped the ball a couple of times, I'm okay with that. Going forward, we now know how to handle it. We've got some new ground rules in place to handle the next batch of grants. And we'll put this in the rearview mirror and move forward.
And I think it's important to put a fine point on that, Kevin, that these were the COVID funds that were provided to us as a grant for the school. This was not in our budget.
No, but they still are taxpayer dollars. And I think we need to at least break it out so the taxpayers understand where we spent this money at. Because, in the future years, we're not going to have this money. And we're not going to be able to afford all this licensing and so forth. We're not going to have it. And, supposedly there's another big stimulus coming, but after that, I imagine it's over because, this COVID is going to go away and we're not going to have government printing money left and right and giving it out like it's free. But I think this needs to be listed out. So at least people in our district understands how much money we got and how much we spent, so they can actually see what their government and what their school is doing with the money. So
I would agree that for the sake of transparency, Tim's absolutely correct that we've always vowed to be fully transparent. I think we've done a really good job of it so far. So if there's questions regarding this, I think it's appropriate that we at least provide the same basic accounting. I mean, it's really not an in-depth accounting sheet we're talking about here. We're talking about a lump sum, and then we're talking about a bunch of computer purchases and notebook cases or things like that. So I think that is not a bad idea to have full transparency with it.
We have all that information and have provided it in different forms. I simply asked the budget committee if they needed more on top of what we've already presented, and then they created this resolution.
So just to, Becky, I don't want to speak out of turn. You're the chairman of the budget committee, but I wanted to bring up for everyone, both on the board and in the public, that we have discussed this and we've kind of made some guidelines, correct? I mean, about how this is handled and is it okay if I speak to that, Becky? I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we said, listen, if at all possible, we would like, the standard procedures to be followed. That's just good practice, right? But we certainly understand that there may be an emergency. And if it is, Rick has already committed to, and we're going to hold him to, letting us know about it. And it's the next board meeting or earlier. We get updates weekly. So I just think we agree, not I, the budget committee feels that it's just good policy to follow our procedures. And if large, I don't think we need to be told we're gonna buy cleaning equipment, right, or spray, or hand towels. But certainly large expenditures, well, over the amount we've discussed, will, if possible, follow the procedures, and if not, we'll do it, and then we'll keep a separate budget just like this one we've been provided. That's what we've agreed upon in committee, Becky, right?
Exactly. And certainly that information has been made public, or it should be made public. It's not a matter of hiding anything. It's just, there's nothing further to discuss on it. The money was spent in accordance with our policies, and we are satisfied with that. So with that, the motion is on the table. Sorry?
Terry, did I get a second on that motion? Yes, I did. We had discussion. I had to have a second on the motion. Thank you.
Becky and Suzanne.
All
roll
right.
call.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
No.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Resolution is made. We have, Becky, do you have action item
I do.
motions for the others? Okay.
So, and let me ask you this. I can do an excerpt of the local Board of Education information, but I'm kind of thinking, because it encompasses so much, maybe we should read the entire thing. Thoughts?
I will leave that to your discretion. The entire thing would be favorable. However, I realize that it's a 2-page document.
Yeah. So bear with me, folks, but I feel like it encompasses so much that we really need to have the whole thing, if you don't mind. All
right, thank you.
I move that whereas the Board of Education of Tecumseh Schools is locally elected, this locally elected board that is empowered to conduct the business of Tecumseh Public Schools pursuant to various provisions of the Michigan Revised School Code. Whereas the district has and continues to navigate how best to meet the educational needs of its students in the midst of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the district has embraced Public Act 148 and the requirements of the extended COVID-19 learning plan, which authorizes local elected school boards to determine the learning mode best for its students in cooperation with local health department officials. Whereas the board has reaffirmed on a monthly basis the learning mode it chooses to extend to students and parents while allowing for parents, staff, and public input prior to public vote. Whereas the district administration has developed guidelines to ensure masks are used, social distancing takes place, and appropriate public health guides are implemented in each classroom, building, and school activity. Whereas the board acknowledges the educational benefits of in-person instruction. Whereas the negative effect COVID-19 can have on the societal inequities of those students the district serves, the district programming has sought innovative ways to address concerns for student learning, engagement, mental health, and safety. Whereas the board has entered into various contractual agreements with its employee groups to support and enhance protections against the spread of COVID-19. Whereas the district, with input from teachers, staff, parents, medical professionals, and students, has safely operated with 93 days of in-person instruction at the K-8 level for the 2021 school year. Whereas the district consulted with local health officials and followed the board's approved plan, which resulted in either quarantining of staff or students, classrooms, or buildings when local metric and data indicated the need. Whereas the district created a plan that has successfully provided parents with an in-person and virtual option for the education of students. Whereas the district administration has and will continue to incorporate appropriate health and safety protocols and standards to successfully restart extracurricular activities, arts, and athletic programs according to Michigan High School Athletic Association, American Choral Directors Association, and the National Association of Musical Education and the Educational Theater Association. Whereas the board seeks to have the director of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services lift any and all restrictions on K-12 education to allow the board to execute its plan in accordance with Public Act 148, to provide in-person instruction and programs that are approved by the locally elected board. Whereas one-size-fits-all approach to COVID-19 does not reflect the individual and unique strengths in a district that locally elected Board of Education can achieve within their community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the locally elected Board of Education of Tecumseh Public Schools, we seek to have the authority in the opening and operation of the district's programs and schools in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with the requirements of Public Act 148, and not have its authority rest in an office, board, or individual outside of the elected Tecumseh Public Board of Education.
I second that.
All righty. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Resolution is made. Last action item. Power of attorney. Becky, do you have? Go ahead.
Assign Richard Hildley to act as the attorney in fact regarding the IRS agreement pertaining to the agreement regarding healthcare benefits for TPS employees.
Is
Second.
there support? All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Any further discussion on this? All right. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of January 11th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Roll call vote. Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Next item on our agenda tonight, superintendent's report. Rick?
Yes, thanks. Just a couple of things to mention. First of all, the LISD budget planning meeting is coming up on February 18th at 6 p.m. They have extended an invitation for the board to have a representative at that meeting. My assumption would be that would be the chair of the budget committee, Becky. But if the board wants to direct another individual, that would be fine. We just have to report who's going to be representing our board at that meeting. So if it's other than Becky, Kevin, please let us know. The AER, the annual education reports for our buildings, coming up due on February 15th. So those will be on our transparency website coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then a more in-depth topic, the superintendent's goals for 2021. This came out of a discussion, and Tony asked a great question about the goals for this year. The superintendent's goals are basically the goals for the board, the things that they want to get accomplished. And we run these in a calendar year so that the superintendent's evaluation can be done by a full sitting board from January to December. Now, the superintendent's evaluation this year was postponed until May because of a lack of data. But it really shouldn't change the process for setting goals for the new calendar year. So just want to report that out of that discussion, what I will be doing is establishing some goals for 2021 for the board to approve. I will bring those to the first meeting in February. Some of them will be carryover because we didn't get everything accomplished in my first round of goals. One of those would be the reorganization of the district. So I'll continue to work on the reorganization in 2021. So I'll bring those forward for the board's approval at the next meeting. And then we will have some things for the board to be getting reports on and hearing the progress about throughout the calendar year of 2021. We've sort of stopped talking about the goals that I set last year, put off the evaluation, and it'll come up again in May. So now it's time to move on to a new set of goals, even if some of them are carried over from the previous year. So thank you, Tony, for asking that question, and we'll start that process at the next meeting.
Thank you, Rick. Item scheduled for next agenda. We're going to have some good news, whatever it may be, it'll be good. Discussion items, we'll have the 2021 and 2022 School of Choice documents ready for K through 4 and above. Action items will be the 7,000 policies, resolution regarding the commemorative baseball field renaming. And I'm sure we'll have more on the agenda. Brings us to public comment on open topics. We had no one sign up for public comment tonight, which will bring us to the board member comments and discussion. Item of discussion, I have sent a training report to everybody for the board, which has our individual transcripts on it. We have lost a lot of our training time and our board member education time to COVID. It seemed to hit, I think Becky and I made it to the Winter Institute, and then COVID hit, and it pretty much shut down not only the in-person individual training, but it shut down the planned group training we had for the district over the last year. So anticipating that possibly this spring we'll be able to get back to the group training. I know that MASB is offering some things, a limited selection of classes online. Tony and Greg took some online. They are the classes, unfortunately, I think, Tony and Greg, you could verify this, but I think they were pre-recorded, you said, or were they with a group live?
Ours was live group.
Okay.
Well, they offer both. They offer both. They offer some that are pre-recorded. The one we've already taken was a live webinar. So they offer both options.
Okay.
We have
So
some
on
that
the
were going to
ones-
be recorded.
Okay. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, but having been to the training, I think the group forum during the education classes is probably as beneficial as the information you get with the training itself. Probably varies for the class, but honestly, I would encourage everyone to look at your transcripts. And if there are individual classes that you can pick up, whether it be in a group setting or pick them up on demand, pre-recorded, to please do so we can get back on our training regimen. Hopefully, I was taking a look at it. I think there's some classes that we could schedule in district for spring. Unfortunately, I'm held hostage just like everybody else. So as soon as those classes become available and we get word, I'll try to get them scheduled. But I think we can get that back on back on track. And also, being a new year, as Rick has mentioned, and Tony was discussing with Rick and I at the agenda meeting, it's time to set some goals for the district, the 1 year goals, I guess. District planning, what needs to get done, what each individual board member would like to see done. Put those thoughts together over the next couple weeks, and probably as a discussion item, we're going to try to put together an outline of what our goals are as a district for the next year. And that's all I've got for board member comments and discussion. Any other?
I guess I would like to say that I think as a new year beginning and setting new goals, that we should have a board retreat that lasts a couple hours, or sometimes we would do it for half a day and have a little lunch and just all talk. And it's open to the public, but people don't usually show up. So it's usually just, all of us discussing things openly.
All right, not a bad plan. I'm sorry, I stepped on somebody there. Who was talking?
That was me again.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So have you done that in the past?
Yeah, we used to do board retreats a lot in the past. Like once a year. It would be like a longer, it was just about goals and direction of the school and different ideas about how to track academics and different ways you want to learn how to maybe drag the trades back into the schools, and just different ideas. You just bounce off each other and kind of come up with a plan, but it was more like a brainstorming thing.
Yeah, that's the
A
word that I was
spitball.
getting ready to say.
Yeah, you like
spitball session, whiteboarding.
Yeah.
So that's what I've kind of got in mind because of COVID, of course. All of us getting together for a retreat personally, one-on-one in meet space is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So I'd like to get that process underway at the next meeting, so we can start to get those spitballs out there and maybe get some things whiteboarded so we can move forward with getting our goals set before summer gets here.
Yes. So I'm a big goals guy, so sooner rather than later.
Well, I think something we could set a goal for right now is to make sure we have graduation on the football field this year. I don't think we're going to be able to have it inside, but I don't see why we couldn't have it on the football field. And I think that should be a goal for these kids to be able to do it on the football field. We got to raise money. I know people don't like chairs on the field and blah, 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 but if we got to raise money to buy plywood or whatever we've got to do to make that happen, I think we need to do that. And I don't know where prom stands or anything, Rick, if you know anything about that, but if you can maybe give us some little news for these seniors.
Yeah, we do have, we've had some parents reach out early this year. Last year we had to make those plans on very short notice, but just around the holidays, we had some individuals reach out that wanted to start planning what some of those large mileposts might look like. So Dennis and Greg are working with that group of people to come up with ways, and then respond to whatever the health department orders are, and how we can do things. So yeah, there's a group that are working on those topics.
On that note, I think that last year's graduation, the drive-in theater style graduation we had was, it was done very well. And I think that was probably an outstanding job given the circumstances we had to have it in.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that by the time we get to graduation this year, that we're not so locked down, that we're a little bit freer and we can have it in a setting that allows more family, something more personal than sitting in your car watching it from afar. Whether it be the football field, whether we can actually have it inside, that remains to be seen. But I think we need to get it as close to what it has been in the past, back to normal as possible.
Right.
That's for sure.
I like that goal. A large group in-person graduation is a nice goal.
All right. Any other board member comments or discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple things, as always. The first thing I want to do, I want to, I don't know, I mean, we did have an individual that Linda Hensley, who won all state honors in swimming a weekend or so ago. I want to congratulate her. I don't know how the board usually handles that, but I think she needs to get recognized for that. She was 3rd and 6th in her event, so I want to congratulate her, and I'm sure the board would share in that her efforts. Congratulating her. The second item I had is I just saw it on our Facebook page today. There was a trade school webinar, I guess, on Thursday the 28th. If all of you remember during when I was running for school board, the trades are really important to me. So I guess this is more for hopefully there's parents watching out there. That I mean, I think trades are a great place for a lot of students these days, and it's a great option. And I want to make you aware that there is a virtual meeting on Thursday. And please, if your child is at all interested, please RSVP for that. You can see that on the Tecumseh Public Schools webpage. And I'm sure if they can't find it, Rick, if they contact your office or Terry, they can help them get signed up for that.
Okay, good. And as it relates to the fall sports, yeah, fall sports just wrapped up finally with playing in the state football playoffs on Friday and Saturday. So normally we would have a report from the athletic director on fall sports. So we can add that as a good news item, as you mentioned, with our athlete who made all state in swimming.
Thank you, Rick.
Tony?
He's
You
being
finished,
quiet.
Tony?
I think he's
don't
done.
I don't want to butt in, Tony. Are you finished?
Oh yeah, I'm done. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things Tim said earlier, and it kind of falls in with our own, that LSCA or LCSA, whichever that email we got this afternoon. When we talk about we want control at the lowest level with our district, the one thing that I really think would help would be to have more budgeting type items that are possibly available on the website, or they're spelled out better when we have our board meetings. And the reason I feel that way is I went through the district as an employee for 27 years. And, you know, I'd always see the first thing that got cut when the budget got tight, which was periodically, and Rick went through it too, 6-8 years, you know, the budget would go up and then it'd come down. When the first thing we would cut would be athletics. It's 3% of the budget. So you can only cut so much of that, as an example. And then when I got selected by, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of you invited me to come in and be an interim superintendent, that was a real eye opener. And I had no idea what the cost is of Chromebooks and running Chromebooks. Licensing fees. I didn't have anything to do with that at the time, but licensing fees just so kids can learn online is an expense. Building a tech department is an expense. So when that stuff gets costed out, I mean, I agree with what Tim said. There are taxpayers. Some of that state money, some of it's local money. Regardless of where it comes from, I'm just not sure. And probably 80 or 90% of our parents don't really care. They just want to see the whole budget balanced and it works. When you look at the expense involved with that, I think that'd be an eye opener for people to see, for those who want to see it. Again, the fact that I hadn't seen it would have been my own fault because I just didn't get that involved. But it's pretty staggering. And it's not just that, I'm not just picking on technology, but when you, I mean, I was just shocked when I looked at the cost that went into Chromebook repair, a technology department, 6 zillion copies being made all the time. We have 2 ways here to build our budget. Get more students here. That's the ideal way. And then streamline our operations so they're as cost effective as they can be. And I think, you know, when you have people in the community that look at that, good suggestions can come from people in our community who work in businesses or for companies or their CPAs or what have you, where they can take a look at that and say, you know, maybe this is something you could work on. And I think we need to draw on that support from the people we have here that do want to get involved. Because I agree, you know, government at the lowest level is the most effective, because we just saw a big example of how the higher up the food chain you go, it's not necessarily so smooth and effective. So we need to employ that at this level. The end.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, there's a lot of staggering costs that people don't even consider. I don't know how much we spent last year on toilet paper, but I'm sure it would cause a few heart attacks in town. All those little things add up, that's for sure. You know, and when you look at, people don't really realize that Chromebook that they can buy for $150 might not be the same Chromebook that they're getting from school. And then the school has to have that licensing for the Chromebook, the software. It all definitely adds up. It seems like the money we saved in textbooks moving to digital was spent 2 times more in licensing fees sometimes. So transparency in that regard, I think, is a good idea. I think with all the documents are available as far as our budget reports and such to the public. However, putting it in a readable format is definitely taxing. Kelly does a pretty good job for us, giving us both the detailed and the Cliff's Notes versions. That may be something that we do produce on our website in the future. I think that's worthy of discussion at our next meeting when we're talking about goals for the district to get a little bit more in depth in it.
Well, I really
All
like
right.
this idea of a board retreat that you mentioned, or maybe it was Becky that mentioned. I don't remember who said it. Maybe Suzanne. But the idea of a board retreat would be good because I mean, it's sometimes, you know, I know for Tony, at least I had a few months working for the district over a year. I mean, as an employee here, but I know Suzanne, she lives around the corner. Other than that, I didn't know anybody that's on the board now. Well, Tony, but that prior to that, I really didn't know anybody until I guess Mike McNamara too, because he was on the board when I worked here. But sometimes it's hard to work together I think it's hard to work together when you don't even know each other, and kind of because of the Open Meetings Act, that's difficult for us to do. But understanding each other, where we come from and points of view would go a long way towards trying to build better committees and having better communication.
Absolutely. And really what we're doing right now and what we're talking about starting next week is taking the place of the board retreats or the team building exercises from the MASB. Those are part of the group classes that they offer at the MASB, is specifically to build a better team. And that, unfortunately, is one of the classes or a couple of the classes that we as a group missed out on last year because of COVID. That's for sure.
It would help us build shorter board meetings as well.
Oh, that'd be me. If I would just shut up and get it over with.
Let's keep moving.
All right. Any further discussion or comments other than Suzanne? All right. Looks like the time is now 8:30. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.